Hello and welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is number 138. I'm recording on December 28th, 2025, and I watched the movie yesterday on the 27th. Getting close, only the final movie left, Casablanca. So I may be able to meet my goal of finishing the 1943 movies before the end of 2025. We'll see. The movie I watched this time was In Which We Serve. It was available on HBO. So it was $0 again, or zero extra dollars, I guess. And the average is now 33 cents a movie for this round. And so I actually finished two movies yesterday. And so I was like thinking about my days to finish calculations. And I have it started from, the first date I watched one of these movies was May 13th, 2023. And then it calculates from my spreadsheet here the most recent date entered, which is 12/27. Then it takes into account how many movies I watched out of the 610 and all that, and figures out how many days between movies it takes me. So the problem is when I started in 2023, I watched a bunch of movies right at the beginning, and then I had a gap, and I watched some more, and then I had a really big gap. Even in 2024, I think I had a pretty big gap. It wasn't really till this year that I started really kind of trying to watch as many as I could. And so I added another calculation. So I have an all-time calculation, which according to that, based on the very first movie I watched in 2023, I've watched one movie about every 7 days. And this has me finishing in January 25th, 2035. If I just look at 2025, the first movie I watched was on January 3rd, 2025. And the most recent was yesterday, 12/27. That is approximately one movie every 2.5 days. And that has me finishing on May 19th, 2029. So figure I'll keep the all-time one, but I'll maybe do a yearly one as well just to see how that changes. And that is probably only interesting to me, but that's fine. Anyway, In Which We Serve is a 1942 British patriotic war film directed by Noel Coward and David Lean, who made his debut as a director. It was made during the Second World War with assistance of the Ministry of Information. And it is a 1942 movie. It's in the 1943 nominated Oscars. So my assumption is it was released in 1942 in England and then 43 in America. We'll see when we get down lower here. The screenplay by Coward was inspired by the exploits of Captain Lord Louis Mountbatten, who was in command of the destroyer HMS Kelly when it was sunk during the Battle of Crete. Coward composed the music as well. So, yeah, this dude co-directed, wrote, and composed the music for this movie and was the star of it. Coward composed the music as well as starring in the film as the ship's captain. The film also starred John Mills, Bernard Mills, Celia Johnson, Richard Attenborough in his first screen role. I didn't even notice him. In Which We Serve received the full backing of the Ministry of Information, which offered advice on what would make good propaganda and facilitated the release of military personnel. The film is a classic example of wartime British cinema through its patriotic imagery of national unity and social cohesion within the context of the war. Yeah, so directed by Noel Coward and David Lean, written by Noel Coward, produced by Noel Coward, starring Noel Coward, John Mills, Bernard Miles, Celia Johnson, narrated by Leslie Howard. Oh, okay. He's been in a bunch of movies I've watched. Cinematography, Ronald Name, edited by Thelma Connell and David Lean, music by Noel Coward and Clifton Parker, distributed by British Lion Films, release date September 17th, 1942, with a runtime of 115 minutes. This was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay, losing out to Casablanca and Princess O'Rourke, respectively. However, Coward was presented with an Academy Honorary Award for his outstanding production achievement. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times observed, "There have been other pictures which have vividly and movingly conveyed, in terms of human emotion, the cruel realities of this present war. None has yet done it so sharply and so truly as In Which We Serve. For the great thing which Mr. Coward has accomplished in this film is a full and complete expression of national fortitude. Yes, this is truly a picture in which the British may take a wholesome pride and we may regard as an excellent expression of British strength. Howard was determined to portray Captain Kinross in the film, despite the studio's concern that his public dressing gown and cigarette holder persona might make it difficult for audiences to accept him in the role of a tough Navy man. Havelock Allen supported him, although he later called his performance always interesting, if not quite convincing. Howard also needed to convince the censors that the sinking of the ship was a crucial scene and not the threat to public morale they perceived it to be. Good Lord. So yeah, this is it's like starts out with this Navy ship sinking, and then the survivors are clinging to a life raft, and it kind of goes around to each one and sort of fades back to their memories of their life and how they kind of came to be on this ship. And then it also kind of shows some present day stuff happening towards the end, what's happening to people as England is going through the Blitz and all that. This was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars. A little bit slow, a little bit long. It probably could have been a little bit shorter, in my opinion, but overall pretty good. It was late at night, and I think I lose focus a little bit at night, so I was sort of in and out of paying attention to it, but for the most part, paid attention. And I like this one. Pretty good performances from everybody. There wasn't really any kind of standout, but it was a good ensemble cast. Yeah, pretty good on this one. I'm going to keep this one short, and we'll move on to the next one, which is Casablanca. That's the final movie of this year. I also have a snubbed movie to watch. So we'll see you next time.